Remember when Mr. Haney asked you to list all the women you could name in American history? It seemed like an easy task because there are so many. Yet how many of you struggled to name just 10? Maybe it wasn't so much that you didn't know 10 women who had made an impact, as it was that the impact they had made seemed insignificant. Most of the women that you probably named were none other than sultry actresses or the wives of famous men.
I have often sat in meetings and thought, I want to make that statement, but my goodness, it's going to sound stupid. And then some man makes the statement, and everybody thinks it's brilliant. And appalling abuses are still being committed against women, and these include domestic violence, dowry murders, coerced abortions, honored crimes, and the killing of infants simply because they're born female.
When the topic of this documentary was revealed, it has become customary for half of the room to tune out. It doesn't apply to them. Women's role in American history has been inferior. They have been underrated and discredited, regarded as the second sex. Harriet Tubman was the leader of the Underground Railroad. Her incredible leadership and bravery led hundreds of slaves to freedom. She became known among the people as Black Moses. Her power sparked the nation of slaves to pursue their freedom at any cost.
I remember the women suffragettes. They seemed rather bold and unladylike to venture out into the world. But when we got the vote, we were thankful to them. But we had to wake up too.
And the two women who had fought longest for women's rights, Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony, had not lived long enough to cast a ballot themselves. Elizabeth Blackwell was the first American woman to earn a college degree. She always said that she would feel more comfortable going to a female physician, but there were no female physicians. Therefore, she emerged as the first woman with a medical degree. Anne Sullivan was best known to be the teacher of Helen Keller, the first blind deaf woman to obtain a Bachelor of Arts degree. If it wasn't for Anne Sullivan's kind patience and dedication, such a renowned achievement wouldn't have been possible. This student-teacher relationship was the start of something extraordinary. Sullivan was a woman to inspire Keller to become a human rights activist.
We found that placing her hand in this position, the thumb resting on the throat, right at the larynx, the first finger on the lips, the second on the nose, we found that she could feel the vibrations of spoken words.
It was always a dream to be the first to fly around the world at the equator. 27,000 miles, an incredible aerial journey for the 1930s. No one had ever done it, and now a woman would be the first. That woman was Amelia Earhart.
This new Lockheed is the realization of a dream.
In May 1937, Amelia Earhart took off on the flight that was to be the crowning achievement of her career. 6 weeks later, she and her navigator, Fred Noonan, disappeared without a trace in the South Pacific.
Margaret Sanger was a women's rights activist who created her platform of women's rights primarily on the availability of birth control.
There was a certain satisfaction in doing something that was going to alleviate the sufferings of women in particular, and I was quite a feminist at the time.
Obviously.
And yes, and I naturally didn't want to see women take all the suffering of childbearing and of pregnancies. So it was a pleasure, in a sense, to think that you were striking at an archaic law, which it was. It was put on the statute books by Anthony Comstock some years ago, and no one had stood up against it. No one had tried to change the laws. And at that time, not even a doctor had a right to use the United States mails and common carriers for books, for learning, or anything that he had to do with this question. It was considered obscene. The whole question was considered obscene.
Florence Chadwick became the first woman to swim the English Channel in 1926. Men before her swam the 21-mile channel in 21 hours and 45 minutes. She swam the channel in 14 hours and 31 minutes. On December 1st, 1955, Rosa Parks boarded a bus on her way home from work. Rosa Parks took a seat at the back of the bus in a section reserved for colored people. As the bus continued its journey, the seats began to fill up. At this point, a white man boarded and was left standing. The bus driver stood up and ordered the people in the first colored row to release their seats. All did except for Rosa Parks, who did not move. The driver asked if she was going to stand or be arrested. She looked out the window and quietly said, "You may do that." The police arrived and asked her why she did not stand up. She responded, "Why are you always pushing us around?" With those defiant words, the civil rights movement was born. Betty Friedan was a leading figure in the women's movement. Her 1963 book, The Feminine Mystique, sparked the second wave of American feminism in the 20th century. Her clear thinking and speaking had a great effect on people and contributed greatly to both her success and American women's success.
The unprecedented coalition of women that today has called this strike to confront the unfinished business of our equality. Women young and old, women black and white, women students, women grandmothers who fought for the original right to vote, women Republicans, Democrats, Socialists, young radical women, establishment women, rich women who know that all women are poor, housewives, professional women, women who are famous, and no woman makes it alone, and that's all women are equal.
Really welcomes his liberation and the end of his loneliness and the end of this sea of hostility that has been, preventing love in this country and that has been dehumanizing sex and making such loneliness and such alienation, frustration for everyone. And he will welcome a woman who can come out from behind that simpering, mask of ruffles that hides so much rage and impotent rage and unnecessary covert manipulativeness, and welcome the woman that can come out of that mask of ruffles and rage and be a person and be a joyous woman because she really feels like she's somebody. And then you see we'll both be able to make love, not war, and in the highest sense. Not only between man and woman. The war between the sexes could become an Armageddon if we don't get on with our revolution. But if we do get on with it and we restructure society to make equality really possible, then I think the war between the sexes will end, and for the first time we will have possible true human sexual liberation, and we will have possible true love, and real love, real friendship, real knowing of man and woman. In the biblical sense, to love is to know, and how can you know when each wears these masks that keep us from being ourselves? And then in the larger sense, the world sense, we'll be able to make love, not war.
Madeleine Albright was the first female Secretary of State under the Clinton administration. She struggled incredibly with inferiority during her term, and today she advocates for the equal respect of women.
What advice do you have for women in positions of authority who are trying to seek respect from their male counterparts?
I have often sat in meetings and thought, I want to make that statement, but my goodness, it's going to sound stupid. And then some man makes the statement, and everybody thinks it's brilliant. And so my advice has been that women have to be active listeners and interrupt. But when you interrupt, you have to know what you're talking about.
Some say all this is cultural and there's nothing anybody can do about it. I say it's criminal and we each have an obligation to stop it.
The freedom to expression, freedom to intelligence, and freedom to safety continue to evade women today. As far as women have come since the founding of our nation, there are still enormous social barriers. Barriers created when half of the room disregards her. She is stuck in a cyclical battle, proving her significance to people assuming her insubstantial. Yet she continues to fight for her last freedom, the right to be valued with equal respect.